Welcome to the Newtown Big Dreams podcast, an interview-style talk show that's your gateway to the fabulous and fascinating people who relocated to start a new life. Whether you're new to our podcast or your city, our fellow neighbors from across Canada, North America, and the entire English-speaking world share their stories of reaching new horizons and big dreams. So sit back and relax as we navigate in-depth and intimate conversations with entrepreneurs, thought leaders, executives, creatives, and anyone who can share their story about their Newtown big dreams. And now, here's your host, Luke J. Menkes.
So, Haley, it's great to see you today.
Thank you so much.
You've been in Kelowna for about 3 years.
Yes.
Tell us the story of how you ended up in our beautiful city.
So I was actually born and raised in Calgary. Lived there my whole life. We took kind of family trips out here in the summers and just kind of fell in love with it. And actually ended up coming out here for post-secondary initially.
Did you go to UBCO?
UBCO.
Okay.
So I took their Bachelor of Fine Arts program for about 2.5 years, and then kind of found my way into digital art and illustration, and just kind of decided to go my own way, and I just ended up staying.
Very cool. It reminds me, I lived in Florida for 2 years, and I loved it. But as a kid, when we lived in Toronto, we would go every Christmas for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So I was very familiar with, what it was like.
Yeah. No,
and it was kind of a dream come true to be able to move there. So you always loved the city of Kelowna. Did you have thoughts of maybe moving somewhere else? Was it a tough choice?
Not really.
It was
it was pretty natural. My boyfriend actually came out here for school as well. So we were both kind of out here. And I mean, I'm from Calgary, so I'm used to the cold, but I definitely prefer more of a temperate climate. So this was kind of a natural choice.
Have you have you been able to get a lot of your old friends from Calgary to come and see you?
Some. Yeah. It's pretty easy given the summers here and the lake and all that stuff. No.
Right. So you're into design and illustration. Is that what you specialized in at UBCO?
No. So with the BFA program, the Bachelor of Fine Arts program, it was pretty broad.
Okay.
And most of the kind of specifications were kind of drawing, painting, sculpting. So a lot of more like hands-on, but there wasn't really anything specific to illustration. For that, I think I would need to go to more of either a larger school or a more specific art school.
I see.
And so most of it was kind of just self-taught.
Right. So, but it's still tangentially related, right?
Yeah.
Because it's art, you're learning about colors and patterns.
Yeah.
And what kind of things they teach you?
I mean, kind of what you said, like a lot about color, pattern, working with form, composition, kind of all the basics. So it definitely laid a great kind of foundational skill set for me. So I don't regret school at all as far as that stuff goes. But I felt like at the same time, I kind of wanted to do something more on my own and kind of branch out a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
do you know why you prefer illustration to other mediums?
No, I mean, growing up, I was always creative. That was always kind of my thing. I was never really good at math, never really good at science, but art was kind of always my go-to. And I kind of dabbled in a bunch of different things just to kind of try and find that little niche area where I felt fully comfortable. So I tried painting and sculpting and charcoal drawing and all this stuff. And I just kind of felt like when I discovered kind of the digital side of things, which I never really knew much about prior to going into school, I just kind of felt like, hey, this is actually like a really nice fit.
Something you really love.
And something I can see myself doing for a long period of time.
Yeah. I've always, not always, but many times in my life, I've been in publishing. So I've been in radio. Yeah. I've been at marketing. But I love podcasting.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it's my favorite thing. So it's just one of those things, right?
Yeah.
You try everything and then you hopefully settle on something you love.
Yeah.
So what sort of illustrations do you do? What is the practical application?
So currently I am mostly focused on digital illustration. So I actually use a tablet to create all of my work.
And are you using a pen or fingers?
A pen.
A pen.
So when I first kind of came across digital art, I mean, I grew up around technology, so I was familiar with it, but I had always thought it would be a lot more complicated than it is. Like I thought, okay, I'm not great with computers. I'm not good with tech. I don't have that kind of background. I'm not going to be able to figure it out. But I first had downloaded an app on my phone, kind of a sketching app. And so initially I was drawing with just my finger on my phone screen.
Right.
And I was like, hey, this is kind of fun. And so I kind of challenged myself to create a little sketch every day just to kind of practice. Then I said, hey, this is actually like really fun. And then it kind of moved from there onto my MacBook where I use the little trackpad and my finger to draw, which looking back, like what I do now, I feel like is so much more, makes so much more sense. But that was kind of a fun way to start out. And then once I kind of developed more of a skill set and kind of grew in my confidence with my work, then I kind of took the leap and invested in the pen and all that stuff, which is like a game changer for me.
Right. Is it iPad Pro?
Yes.
Right. And they're pressure sensitive.
Pressure sensitive.
Which is pretty cool.
And the app I use is called Procreate.
Procreate.
And you can actually do like charcoal textures, oil paint.
Amazing.
Like there's so many different things you can do with it.
Is it very intuitive? So you've got the art skills. Was it easy to learn the software?
Fairly easy. I mean, there's so much to it. And I feel like I'm still learning new things about it. There's a ton of tutorials online and following other artists and kind of how they use things. And everyone has their own little way of doing things. But it was pretty easy to kind of, once you kind of get used to it. It took me about a month to kind of get used to the sensitivity of the pen and all that stuff, and because I'd never worked digitally like that before.
Right.
And that was about December of last year that I started that.
Right. Tell us a little bit about the process. So you get hired by someone to do something.
Yeah.
Are you a little bit obsessive like me? So like where you'll go back to something or you'll wake up and go, I want to change something?
Totally.
Or do you just like, that's finished, it's done, on to the next one?
I'm so bad with kind of nitpicking things.
Yeah.
But I've kind of learned to kind of stop myself a little bit and say, you know what, okay, I'm finished with this and I can move on. Because I find if I keep going back to things over and over, I end up overworking things. So that's always been a thing. But that's what's nice about digital artwork is if I do make a mistake or I want to change something, it's incredibly easy to tweak digital artwork instead of like a physical like charcoal piece or an oil painting.
Right.
It's very, very tactical.
Yeah, that's awesome. I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and a recent one is called The War of Art.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you've heard it.
No.
It's by a guy named Pressfield, and he's a writer. But he talks about how, business is kind of a left brain activity. We have to have a schedule. We have to have a budget. We have to know our numbers, keep appointments, and kind of be disciplined in that way. Whereas creativity can be a little different. So sometimes I'm sure you feel very inspired. And other times you're like, well, I have to do it because I got a deadline. Yeah. But maybe you're not feeling that motivated, right? So is it for you something that you're just super thrilled to do every single day? Or do you have days where you're like, you got to push through? I
mean, there definitely are days where I'm not feeling as creative. I find for me it kind of comes in waves. So when I first started the series with the quotes and kind of more the mental health focused works, that kind of really got me going, and I came up with stuff every single day, and I would just go. And then it kind of comes to a point where I need to like kind of take a break and regroup and get outside and get re-inspired. And then, but I mean, as far as freelance projects go, that's what I love about it the most, is that it's always something new. No two projects are ever exactly the same, so it's kind of exciting to have that little bit of a challenge. And of course, like meeting all these new people is so fantastic. Yeah, that's awesome. So tell us about your typical client. So typical client, I've been working a lot with small businesses and quite a few bloggers online as well. So my primary source of kind of clientele comes from Instagram, actually. Okay. So you publish your work on Instagram? Yes. I have all my work on Instagram under my Shop Sunday tag on Instagram. And yeah, most people will reach out to me through the direct message, or there's been certain cases where I like fall in love with a brand and I reach out to them and just kind of say, hey, love your work. I'd love to work with you.
Amazing. And
sometimes that stems into things, and it's super exciting and can be kind of fast paced sometimes, but it's.
So what sort of projects do you do for your clients? So is it print advertising? Is it Instagram advertising? What kind of things do you actually do?
So most recently I've actually done some custom illustrations for a workbook.
Okay.
For a company based in California. And that's
so workbook meaning like, is it a training manual or what kind of a
So it's
workbook?
Actually for the project I'm working on currently. I can't say too much about it, but it's still kind of in the works. But it's for a company in California, and they do workshops with young girls kind of focused on empowerment.
I see.
And that kind of stuff. So I help them create a little interactive workbook for them to use with their courses.
Very cool. So they have a course, and then the girls enroll and they get a workbook. Yeah. And you're doing the illustrations for the workbook.
Yeah.
You also do the text layout or just the illustration?
For now, just the illustrations.
Right.
I've also done custom illustrations for small companies making clothing, so for t-shirts and stuff like that. I've done custom social media content for people, which has been super fun. I worked recently with a shampoo and hair care company out of New York called Function of Beauty, and I ended up actually reaching out to them because I love their products, and
Amazing.
They said, sure, let's do something. So I created some kind of custom phone wallpapers for them to kind of promote on their social media pages, and that was kind of a little swap, and
right.
It's super fun. I never really know what I'm going to be doing next, so it's.
I think that is super great that you reach out to companies. Yeah. So traditional sales, we think of, people say, well, I offer these services. Do you have any need for any of these services? But you seem to take the approach of, I love your product or, the work you're already doing, and I think I can help.
Yeah. I love working with companies that I can relate to personally. That's ideal. People who are kind of focused on the same issues as I am, and people that have kind of the same personalities. Like, I feel like I really get along well with, and it just makes it that much more fun.
Right. So if you like the brand, how do you put that? Like, do you say, I can do better than your current illustrator?
No,
or your current illustrator sucks, or like...
No, I usually kind of approach it from more of a place of, I'm trying to kind of get my work out there, and like, if you have any opportunities for kind of an emerging artist to collaborate with, I'm available. I never want to try and bash anyone else's work. But yeah, it's more of a like, hi, like, this is me, this is my work. If you're ever interested in any custom work, feel free to reach out. Yeah. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but it's fun.
That's great. So it's being helpful.
Yes.
Instead of trying to be competitive.
No, and that's one thing that I've found over the past couple of years, especially with Instagram. That's kind of my primary social media network for my art, is like the absence of competition amongst artists on there. Like, you'd think they're all fighting for projects, and they're, like, we're all kind of in the same thing together, but there's so much kind of camaraderie and respect for one another, and there's so much collaboration on there, and I found like nothing but like help and support from other artists, which is like amazing.
So you might have a scenario where someone says, listen, I love your art, but I'm looking for something a little more like this,
and then if you know someone
will say, you should talk to Haley.
Yeah. I've had that happen several times, which is, it's exciting because it helps everyone out in the long run.
Who are some of your favorite artists that you follow on Instagram?
I have so many.
Maybe like two or three off the top of your head.
Frances Cannon is an artist based in Australia, and she's an illustrator. She focuses a lot on women's rights and kind of body positivity, and I just love her style. It's so consistent, but it's so kind of inventive.
Is it illustration?
It's illustration on paper.
Yeah.
So she's fantastic. Adam J. Hertz, his Instagram is AdamJK, and he is based in Los Angeles, and he is incredibly funny, and his works actually inspired some of my recent works quite a bit. He does a lot of text and kind of his own writing, and it kind of takes a lighthearted approach to more serious issues.
I see.
But it's just super fun work. There's so many on there. so many. I mean, if you go on my Instagram page, you can also see who I'm currently following as well.
Yeah.
But there's over 1,000 that I'm following.
Yeah.
But those are some really great ones.
Very cool. And I guess with the internet, you don't really need to meet a lot of your clients in person. Like, you don't have to go to California to do that job.
Yeah.
Did you, do you do a Zoom call or a Skype call with new clients, or is it just all email and...
It kind of depends on what the client prefers. Sometimes they would prefer to kind of go on WhatsApp and just kind of quick message back and forth.
Right.
Sometimes email format works better if they have kind of a lot of info they want to send over at once. But I usually like hopping on a call with clients just to kind of get to know them a bit better. They can get to know me.
At least at the start.
Yeah, just to kind of get a feel for kind of what they're looking for and see if I would be a good fit for what they're looking for. Because sometimes you go into a project and it's something that's kind of a little bit too out of my comfort zone.
Right.
I mean, I always try to give myself a bit of a challenge, but sometimes I feel like another artist would be better suited for a specific project. In that case, I would kind of send them on over to someone else or suggest
That's always a
people.
good thing.
Yeah.
Always a good thing. Even in real estate, they, it's very competitive, but I always try to do that. If I think someone's better suited for a certain thing,
Totally.
Especially out of town things, where there's going to be a lot of driving and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good, and it's noble, and it will come back to you.
Yeah.
Just through the law of karma, whatever, that you're trying to help other people, and it's going to come back to you for sure. For sure. So you when you do illustration, you have certain topics that you prefer to deal with. So like positivity, mental health, self-care. Do you do like memes, or is there text, or what? Like, describe one of your illustrations.
A lot of my current works are text-based. So I will find a quote or create a quote that I find kind of really responds to how I'm feeling at that moment. Kind of like little reminders. And then I will kind of translate that onto my iPad and kind of manipulate it and add my own illustration to it to kind of create a full finished work of art that I can get made into prints and sell or post on my social media feed.
Cool. Well, I'm really excited to see some of your work on Instagram. What is your handle?
It's at Shop Sunday. And Sunday like the ice cream, not like the day of the week.
And why did you pick that?
I honestly have no idea. It was, when I first kind of went online with my artwork, it was Haley Kennedy Studios, and then it kind of evolved into a couple different names, and nothing really kind of stuck. And then I just said, hey, why not something kind of short and sweet, like Sunday?
I think it's a great...
And it just kind of stuck, and
it's a great
I just went with it.
Do you do any logo design or branding?
I have in the past. There's been a few kind of small companies that I've done kind of branding packages for. So whether that's logo design or helping them choose fonts for all of their kind of visual work or color palettes and all that stuff. I know for someone who's not as creative, it can be really overwhelming to go through thousands of fonts trying to find the right one for their brand. But I love putting stuff like that together. Yeah.
One of the things I do with the podcast, I don't know if you've had a chance to check it out, but I'll do a meme. So I get a photograph. I ask them to provide it. Yeah. Saves me a lot of trouble. And then I'll put my favorite quote of yours on to the meme. Have you seen it?
Yes. Yeah. On your Facebook page.
So I would love to kind of like have someone do that for us. You know what I mean? Because it's kind of time consuming.
Definitely.
I do enjoy doing it, but my favorite part of this is having the conversations, And so there's a lot of technical work, like we're going to talk for maybe 25 minutes today, but I'm going to spend another hour or two, like getting the episode ready, and I wish I didn't have to. I mean, this is the 151st interview, and I've only published 84, so I'm like way behind, So I don't know, maybe you could give me a little proposal about doing the graphical part of it.
Totally.
Because I think it's eye-catching. Yeah. People, we get a lot of followers in the feed and stuff. Yeah. So And there's so much overlap, right?
Yes.
I mean, you're not a social media management company, but you know how to post on Instagram.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's really all I'm doing is just posting and then hashtags.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. Good old hashtags.
Right.
Took me a while to figure those out, but.
Yeah. And who do you like for, do you follow anybody when it comes to social media itself? So like people are really good at branding themselves and promoting themselves on Instagram. So is it one of the artists that you follow? Do you know what I mean? So some, like I listen to different podcasts, but some guys and girls are better at promoting the podcast, you know, and some just have great podcasts, but they're not that great at, you know, doing Instagram and stuff.
There's so many. I mean, as far as the consistency, like that's one thing I always look for with social media feeds is you look at the feed kind of as a whole, and if everything kind of fits well together, then that's just it's visually pleasing.
Yeah.
Which I really enjoy. I'm trying to think of any one specific.
Well, you could tag me in a post
if you see
something
great.
I can
do that. Absolutely.
That'll be super helpful. Awesome. So, do you have a home office?
I do. So I work out of my apartment right now. And again, the magic of the internet, I can be fairly remote with my work. I can go to a coffee shop and work on client work. I can go to the beach sometimes and sketch some stuff. It's flexible, which I find really, really helpful.
Yeah. Tell us about the iPad Pro. What do you love about it?
I love the versatility and the user-friendliness and the fact that I can literally create anything I want on there. And I can save it, and I can export it to my Google Drive, and I can share it. And it's so nice to have. It's portable. That's one of the main things I'm so excited about. And like I said before, the Procreate app itself is absolutely amazing. And like the level of detail you can get, and the fact that you can take the pen and write with it like a pencil, and it writes normally, and then you can tilt it on its side and shade like an actual pencil would.
It's amazing.
It's so you can smudge things with your finger. Like it's amazing.
So great.
And it's like endless what you can do with it.
Do you ever wake up in the middle of the night and say, get an idea?
Oh, all the time. All the time.
Just grab your iPad and start going?
I usually go into the living room so I don't wake up my boyfriend. But I'll go out there and I'll turn on one little light and sometimes I'll sit there and I'll just draw for hours. Eventually just fall asleep on the couch sometimes.
That's awesome.
But when those ideas kind of come to me, I feel like I need to kind of get them out somehow, whether that's on a piece of paper or on my tablet, and then I can always come back to them later.
Yeah.
But
well, I'm pretty confident that you're doing the right thing for you, the right profession, because when I hear, someone wakes up in the middle of the night and they just love doing it, that's a really positive thing, especially if you can make money doing it. I think it's great to do things we love, but if we can't, pay the bills with it, then it's hard to keep doing it.
Absolutely. And that was kind of the main thing. Like it was just kind of this year that I kind of fully dove headfirst into kind of freelance work.
Did you work for a company before?
I did. So I worked with a couple different companies, kind of doing more contract work. But then again, it came to kind of a point where I wanted to do all these different things, and I wanted to kind of be my own boss and kind of have that flexibility. So I made the decision to turn Sunday Studios into a full-on kind of creative studio and offer these services to people with the hopes that eventually that could be kind of my full-time gig. And I mean, it's been going really good so far, so I'm hoping to kind of continue with that. And I mean, the fact that I can do something I love and support myself financially is a dream.
It's the best.
It's amazing.
Yeah. And I'm sure you would agree, for young entrepreneurs, it's good to start with the company.
Yes.
At least for a while. I'm sure you learned a lot about pricing.
Oh, yeah.
And invoicing and like how to deal with clients, right?
And I mean, that's all come with time, too. Again, I'm not a numbers person by any means, so that was kind of a learning curve for me, is kind of figuring out all that side of running a business. But I feel like I've learned so much even in the past several months. It's crazy.
It can be a challenge to know what to charge, because it's like, well, I love doing this, so you almost want
to do it. I'll just do it. But at the same time, you need to gotta pay the bills.
So we touched on it. Tell us a little bit a little more about the themes
Yeah.
that you love to use in your work.
So my most recent series of pieces, I don't even know how many there are in there now. It's just kind of like an ongoing theme, is big on kind of mental health and self-care.
Okay.
So I have been kind of personally affected by mental health for most of my life. I was diagnosed with both depression and anxiety when I was 14.
Wow.
So just in high school, and I've kind of dealt with it ever since. And last year was kind of more of a difficult year for me as far as health goes. And so just kind of coming out of that and trying to find a way to incorporate kind of my creativity and my love for creating things into something that's also kind of healing and also inspiring to other people was huge. And so that kind of started out there, and I found a couple quotes that kind of got me through what I was going through at the time. And
Can you tell us?
so one of my favorite quotes that I brought a couple pins for you guys.
Thank you.
It's just this one I'm wearing right here. So it's, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Right.
So that would mean you can't help other people if you don't take care of yourself first.
Right.
And I've run into so many people that say, I'm just doing, and I'm helping all these other people, but then I get burnt out and I don't have time for myself. And so that was kind of a guiding theme for me throughout my own recovery, was just make sure you take the time to recharge and take care of your own physical and mental health first, so that you can go out there and help other people.
It's so great. So great. Did you design that?
I did.
Okay.
I did.
Okay. So I see an example now.
Yeah.
That's really cute. That's
Thank you.
great. And where's the quote from? Do you know?
I don't know.
I think it's
kind
a
of passed
pretty
around.
common phrase.
It is a pretty common quote. I don't know the exact source, but it was just, I think I saw it on a Post-it note somewhere, and it just kind of stuck with me, and I just had to do something with it and turn it into something. I mean, something wearable is always kind of fun.
Yes.
Because I can take it with me.
Who produced the...
So I had a manufacturer. I did have a little stint making lapel pins a couple of years ago. And I have a factory overseas that I kind of work directly with.
So you send the file.
I design the file, I send it over to them. They come back to me with kind of a proof, and they make kind of a physical mold of the design, and then they create a sample, and I kind of give that the check mark, and then they make the full production and send them over. And it's the first time I got pins made, it was so exciting. Like seeing something you make digitally turn into like a physical product was super fun.
Right. I think everybody here in 2019 either has a mental health issue or someone who's very close to them.
Absolutely.
Does. So someone in your family or yourself.
Yeah.
And everybody to some degree.
Everyone's affected.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Definitely. And I think art is one of the best therapies there is, same as music, and especially if it's something you love doing.
Totally.
So that's really great that you can incorporate something you love doing with also filling yourself up and healing yourself.
Yeah.
So does the process of just designing things for clients help you?
It does. I mean,
it feels good, right?
Yeah, it's always, creating things have always been something that's kind of felt natural to me. So it's always been kind of like an outlet.
Right.
In some way. If I'm feeling frustrated or anxious or sad, I find like making anything will just kind of, whether that's even like cooking or,
something
like
creative,
making anything.
You could look at your work and it feels really good.
Definitely. And the fact that I have made works and posted them to social media and have other people kind of giving me feedback of, hey, like I'm dealing with a similar thing and I found like this really inspired me and this really motivated me and I feel like recognized by your work. That just like, that's the best thing ever.
Yeah. And I could see perhaps in the future you could volunteer with some mental health organizations.
Yeah, there's some really great ones. Even here in Kelowna, Third Space coffee shop.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of the exact address. But they're fantastic.
We'll link to it in the show notes.
They're a nonprofit coffee shop. So they donate 100% of all of their sales directly to their own charity.
Yeah.
And they provide either free or discounted counseling to people who otherwise couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
So it's an amazing cause. And I actually, for my birthday this year, I had a little promotion where I donated a portion of any sales that I made during my birthday week directly to them. So that was really fun.
Super cool.
And I hope I can work with them in the future.
Very nice. Well, we will certainly do our best to promote you and your work and help people to get in touch with you.
Yeah.
So your Instagram is Shop Sunday, and Sunday is spelled like the ice cream. Sunday. Yeah. And it's super easy to remember.
Yeah.
And is that the best way for people to reach you?
Yeah.
Just send you a DM?
Yep. DMs work perfectly. I check them fairly frequently, so that's always a good way. My email is also linked through my Instagram, so if you want to reach to me through there, then that always works too.
Awesome. Haley, last question.
Yes.
Who would you like to nominate to come on the show?
Who would I like to nominate?
Now, the criteria is someone has to agree with the title of the show, I Love Kelowna. If someone hates Kelowna, they can't come on the show. And besides that, it's someone that you would like to hear from. So it could be a best friend. It could be someone you don't even know.
Yeah.
But someone, if you said, hey, Luke's got an interview with this person, so you're going to listen to it, you would listen to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's it.
Okay.
And some people nominate several.
Yeah.
But we would love at least one.
Okay. I would like to nominate a friend of mine.
Okay.
Drew Hertz.
Drew Hertz. Okay.
And she is also an artist and a yoga teacher, and she is so kind.
Nice.
And she does workshops, and she actually works out of the art studio on Bernard downtown.
Okay.
The New Arts Collective.
Right.
And she's fantastic.
Is she a mentor of yours, or just a great friend? Or?
She's a good friend. I mean, her work is incredible, and I'm always inspired by other local artists. So I'd love to kind of know more about her work and kind of what she does.
That's perfect. Well, Haley, it's been a great time talking to you today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Newtown Big Dreams podcast with your host, Luke Menkes, and his authentic guests. And we love our listeners and hope you subscribe now to learn more about the amazing journeys of our incredible guests who relocated to find a new town, big dreams. And remember, make your dreams big.